I thought it was time we cleared the air on Mission Impossible. Stay tuned. So as you know, it's been a long time since Mission Impossible has been on either David's channel or my own, but today we're going to clear the air about where we're at and where we're going with this project. Let's talk about the original idea, where it came from. Well, if you will remember, those who've watched the Mission Impossible up to this point, you will recall that this idea was conceived on a live chat with Uncle Tony of Uncle Tony's Garage, David, and myself. That's problem number one.
Yeah, we'll collaborate. Would you like to collaborate on the stock 318 parts build and see what we can get out of a?
Me?
Yeah,
Definitely.
it has to be the parts that go into this engine have to be available through Rock Auto.
Okay, Rock Auto.
Oh, okay.
Okay, like so. In other words, like no modified or aftermarket parts. It has to be that you take a complete
Rock
stock.
Auto does do some aftermarket parts, don't they?
Do they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you want to keep stock stamp rockers, or you want
Yes.
to do the 273 stuff, or what?
No, stock stamp rockers, but we can modify them for ratio or anything that needs to be done like that.
Yeah.
So basically, the idea is to take an engine, right, that we know has a maximum perfect, in all world perfect output of 230 horsepower, because that's what they dynoed them at the flywheel in 1970.
Now,
And it has to have the stock intake manifold, it has to have the stock carburetor,
Okay.
okay, which is, the BBD.
is that a
Two-barrel.
carburetor? Oh, it's a two-barrel.
Yeah.
I was going to say, didn't that engine come with a thermoquad on it at one time?
No, not that engine.
The later one for a short
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah.
The police package, 1985, 1986.
But you're wanting to keep it two-barrel, right? Two-barrel in the stock intake, two-barrel intake?
Right. The idea is to take the least thing that Chrysler ever offered.
Yeah.
Something that anybody can work with. And the idea here is to find out what the tricks are worth. Like, in other words, without adding parts, but just modifying and refining the stock
What's
parts.
there?
What's there? What can we get out of this thing? And I'm thinking we could go. I think it could make 300 horsepower. I might be out of my mind. I don't know, but I think it could make 300. I think it could make 300.
Use
It's a flywheel.
I'm pretty sure
We can
should
get that
be able
with
to
the
get
heads.
that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If we build a stock appearing 318 two barrel that makes 300 horsepower, it will set fire to the internet.
And so what wound up taking place is we had our own ideas brewing in our head, and that's where things got kind of confusing, okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing is time. People had this expectation that this was going to be done right away. Well, no.
So, what's the schedule on this, guys? What are we waiting?
Well, like we talked about in the live chat that we had, this is going to be a side project for David and myself, and because we're going to have to science out from the carburetor to intake, the cylinder heads, the oiling system, everything. And so the things that we're going to do is not going to cost a lot of money, but it's going to have a lot of time in it. And
Right.
People may say, why are you doing this? We're wanting to use our brains instead of our pocketbook.
All right. So here's the tentative plan, right? So don't hold me to this exactly, right? What a light! I gotta find good lighting.
There you go.
There we go. That's better. But I can't get you guys in it. I'll have bad
It's
lighting,
good.
but you guys.
We're good.
All right. So here's the tentative plan. We're going to shoot for that 1 horsepower per cubic inch with the stock 2-barrel on it, right? The little BBD carburetor on it. Once we've established that, we're at least gone as far as we can, what we'll do is we'll unbolt that manifold and we'll put on a performance 4-barrel intake with like a 750-ish size Holly, and we'll see what this combination makes. You know, with conventional bolt-on, you know, conventional hot rod bolt-on stuff. We'll see the difference there, because everybody's like, well, why don't you just build it with a 4-barrel? You're missing the point. But a comparison between the two would be very interesting once we've achieved the results that we're looking for, or at least come close to the results we're looking for.
Tony had his vision of what he thought this was supposed to be. David had his vision, and I had my vision. Okay, then this is where things take another twist. Charlie actually contacted David to want to be part of the project, right? Well, I've known Charlie through David for quite some time. Tony, on the other hand, has no idea who Charlie is. And so Tony did not like the idea of a complete outsider coming in and having a say in the project because of what it could do as a representation of his channel. Well, with that being said, Charlie put in an enormous amount of work in those 318 heads, because there's no way that David could allocate that much time on just developing a 318 head for this project when we have a whole shop full of other things going on. So that's, I guess you would call that problem number 2. Well, let's enter the next phase. David wound up having health issues that put things in a bind for quite some time. I'm knee deep in work and trying to get Casper together, having all sorts of issues with that. I've got the Crown Vic. It's just a perfect storm. I actually had a conversation with Uncle Tony maybe a week ago, and he and I discussed, and I asked him if he wanted to be a part of the project still, and I told him that what's going to end up happening is things are going to become modified. And he pretty much said he didn't want to be involved with it. And I understand that, you know, because it's not his original vision of what he thought that we were going to do. With anything, any kind of big project like this, planning is paramount to success. Okay, if you have 3 or 4 people doing 3 or 4 different things, the end result's not going to end up where we need to be, okay? So, what is my part in it? Well, I'm going to be assembling all of this. And as you know, this engine is going to be sold off, and all of the profits are going to go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So my thought process is, I want this engine to be something worth having. I don't want it to be a ticking time bomb. I want it to be something that someone could either put in their really hot street strip car, or take it to the racetrack and race it every weekend problem free. Well, that involves a lot of thought process and the part selection that we're going to use to get us where we need to be. We're going to do this project pretty much in the same spirit as original. We've decided to keep the stock valves. Charlie has a set that he's donated to the project, and he's done a lot of work to those cylinder heads. And so what's going to transpire is this engine's going to be done in a couple different stages. And what I mean by that is, we're going to put it together with the manifolds, the 2-barrel intake. Charlie actually has 3 different intakes for us. We're going to put a reworked stock cam or something that's comparable to the stock cam. We still haven't made our mind up on that just yet. The 2-barrel intake, or the 2-barrel carburetor, we've done a lot of work on that. The problem with the carburetor, to get enough airflow through that little 2-barrel is going to require even more extensive work. Yes, we got the flow numbers up, and we're going to have to change the booster to probably a straw type booster, and maybe even go to a monoblade design, which would not make that thing, in my opinion, the best driving carburetor. But the problem is, without having an engine to develop this on, a running engine to just develop the carburetor, we may have the airflow where we want it, but the quantity of the fuel flow and the quality of the fuel flow is going to make or break the power targets that we're shooting for. And so being able to have a carburetor that's going to deliver the proper mixture, the proper itemization characteristics that we're looking for, you know, unfortunately, you can only do that on a running engine. You know, we don't have the facility to create that carburetor without a running engine. So on the bottom end of the engine, we've decided that we're going to do an aftermarket deal. What I mean by that is we're going to have aftermarket rods in it. David spent a huge amount of time grinding on those stock connecting rods, and the gains that you would see with us putting aftermarket rods in this would be relative to what he has done with the stock rods. So with that being said, I think the two would, you know, cancel each other out. But I want to have this thing capable of spinning 7,500 to 8,000 RPMs. Now, I'm going to be talking with Professor P, Shane Polito of Slant Daily Garage, on the modifications that I need to do to this block, the oiling system, to make it sustainable at that RPM. And because when it's said and done, even though we're dynoing it with that stock configuration to begin with, that's not where it's going to end up. Charlie also has another set of heads that we're going to put on it. We'll put a real camshaft in it, something that will allow this thing to turn some RPM, and along with headers, and of course my favorite intake. I'm going to try to find us a tunnel ram for a small block Mopar, or maybe even a good single plane, I don't know, but I really want the tunnel ram because it's just me, you know. And I'm pretty excited about that, because along with what Charlie has done airflow wise, I think we can get extremely close to 500 horsepower using the stock 318 head castings. And if that's not impressive, I don't know what is, really. Now, would you build that engine? Probably not. You know, because aftermarket cylinder heads are in abundance these days for the small block Mopar. There's a lot of better choices out there, so to speak, but we'll end up going that route. And then I know that David has got some companies that are willing to be a part of this project, because they know that the proceeds of this engine is going to be going to St. Jude's. And so aftermarket cylinder heads, you know, that may be the final version of this engine build. If anyone out there has anything that they would like to add, make sure that you put it in the comments. The thing about building an engine project like this is you will never make everyone happy. There will always be someone out there who does not like what we're doing. And you know what? We really don't care. We want this engine to be representative of what we want, and what our St. Jude is going to benefit St. Jude's the most, and what's going to benefit the final owner of this engine the most. So with that being said, I've got a lot of work to do. Don't forget, do not forget, go to shop.unitymotorsportsgarage.com to get your Unity merch. I got the new Casper tee that's live right now. It's an awesome looking shirt. Got the Tunnel Ram Mafia, and we're working on getting David's merch up and going. We're really excited about that, because we've been talking about it for quite some time, and now it's becoming reality. We're doing some different things artwork wise. I'm really excited to see it. A lot of good things coming your way with David and myself and our channels. We're going under the umbrella of Motor Tech Features, presented by Unity Motorsports Garage, and then you're going to have Power Tech 10. We're going to be in this together. You're going to be seeing a lot more live chats. We're going to try to keep up with the every 2 weeks having special guests. It may be some weeks that it's just David and myself, but we always have a good time, and we always enjoy you being there with us. And we're going to do some things to improve the quality in the studio, camera placement, better microphone system. So just, you're going to have to be there to see it. And with all of that being said, this is Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. I will catch you later.